do not know Lilly personally, and I've had very little interaction with Lilly prior to this. No questions are off limits, and I've not shared any question with Lilly, correct? Prior to us speaking now.
Correct.
Throughout the interview, I will attempt to remain non-biased and refrain from stating my own personal feelings or opinions on any of these matters. I will remain respectful, but I will be asking very straightforward and deeply personal questions as we go through this. Due to community guidelines, I will not be describing a lot of these situations in detail and may use code words in my questions. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and thank you, Lilly, for letting me do this with you.
Thank you for interviewing me.
All right.
Quick, I think I already know, but just so we're on the record, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns are she, her. Okay. Just to get started, how old are you, Lilly?
I'm 32.
32, okay. How was your childhood and what type of upbringing did you have as a child?
I had a relatively privileged childhood. I grew up in upper middle class. Parents were together, still are together. One sibling. They're lovely, very kind. No, beyond normal family things, no real issues in the household. Lots of love. No, I had a pretty normal upbringing. I went to school. I went to college. My dad was in the army for a lot of my upbringing. Some of it he wasn't. Some of it he was. Yeah.
Okay. What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of getting sober. I was lost for many years, very sad and not in tune with myself. And eventually I got sober, and that sobriety, among other things, helped me start my transition, which is also something I'm very proud of.
Okay, what is your longest relationship you've ever had?
Um, a couple years at the most, depending on how you count. There was someone who I was with kind of like a couple times, depending on how you count, but a couple of years is about as close as I can get it.
Have you ever been in love?
Yes,
Do you love yourself?
I do. Sometimes I don't like myself, but I've been working on self-love a lot lately, and I think come a long way.
Do you have a degree? Have you been to college?
Yeah. I have a bachelor's in media and cultural studies from McAllister College.
What type of jobs did you have prior to social media?
I worked at a summer camp for many years where I was an educator in a kitchen. I had like an instructional kitchen for 5 summers. I was very proud of that job. I learned a lot about myself and about others. And from there, I transitioned into the nonprofit world, mainly the Jewish nonprofit world, where I had, several jobs that were varying degrees of okay. And then eventually I got a job in tech, which is why I moved to San Francisco. And that was the last job I had before I started doing this.
Okay, were you ever fired from a job?
No. Well, I was laid off as a part of a round of layoffs. The last job I had was at a mobile gaming company, which no longer exists. And basically they made some decisions with the company that didn't go so well. And that's why the company doesn't exist anymore. And me being laid off was a part of that.
You were never actually like fired from a job, so to say.
I've never been fired from a job. I've been in trouble for not doing the best job in the past, but I've never been fired.
Okay. How long have you been, or when did you start transitioning?
I realized I was trans in, I always forget the day. I think it's October 20th, 2020. And right then and there is when I started my transition.
Okay. When and why did you start social media and creating content?
I started, I've always been a creator. Um, I have, from when I was little, I made like videos in the backyard with my cousins on like a handheld recorder camera thing. When I was in college, I made some like short or some like videos for my summer camp about cooking, and like social media content I started doing casually around the time that I started my transition. I went viral on LinkedIn, weirdly, of all places to start with, and started building a following there, and then started building on TikTok as well. And by the time I got laid off from my tech job, I had a base of a following, and that's how I was able to start doing it for a living.
Okay, what is your definition of a woman?
That's a tough one because a lot of people have a very specific and narrow definition. But at the end of the day, for me, if you feel like a woman, then you are. There is no rules of how your body needs to be configured. If you are a woman, you are a woman.
Okay. What do you hope people remember you for?
Um, Something I never really thought about. I don't know. Hopefully for making them feel hopeful, or for teaching them something, or for keeping them company.
Okay. How do you deal with constant criticism and negativity all of this has brought with it?
I have good people around me. I have supportive friends and family, and I have learned how to process the negativity and channel it into creative energy, but it does affect me quite a bit.
Understandable. Do you consider yourself an advocate for trans rights? If so, please explain how.
Yes, absolutely, I do. My platform, I use my platform to advocate and educate, not on behalf of the transgender community as a whole. That's not fair. I don't think anyone can really say that because it's a big community. Um, but my goal is to bring the absolute basics, right? Like the most like core essential things about the trans experience and make them easily understandable and catchy and interesting, for the average person who maybe has never met a trans person as far as they know.
Okay. Have you ever been charged or convicted of a crime?
One time. I've never talked about this. Um, I will talk around this because it's of keywords, but let's just say that about a decade ago, I had how do I say this? Gardening supplies with me, and yeah, nothing, no criminal charges related to anything other than that, though.
Okay. You've never had a restraining order put against you? Has anyone in your personal life ever accused you of stalking or harassment? Have you ever had a Reddit account with the name Pomegranate in it?
Yes.
You spoke about this a little bit earlier about becoming clean, and you're clean now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have or have you ever had anger management issues?
Nothing formally diagnosed, nor do I think that's something I need to be evaluated for. Um, but certainly, there's a lot in the world to be angry about, and there's a lot of things in my past that you know, wish had happened differently. Right? It's tough to spend so many years kind of just like not doing anything, installing and not being yourself, and kind of wasting away, and then one day realize like, oh, I could have been doing something differently the whole time. That's frustrating.
Okay. I saw something about a doctor incident when you were younger. Is this is this a real situation?
Yeah,
Was what I saw real?
yeah, yeah. Basically, I had a Reddit account when I was younger. Um, that that was like, I guess the comments in question were around 2011, so I was about 18 years old. I was like just starting college, and basically what happened was, I recounted a story from my past when I was 3, and there was another person who was 3. We were 3 years old, both of us, and we played doctor. And when I was 18, which was again 15 years later, I made a very off-color joke about that experience. I thought I was being like an edge lord at the time. Shocking humor was like what I thought was, cutting edge and cool and funny.
Was
Um,
was this something that you like you have memories of, or was did you get like found doing this during
yeah,
this situation?
yeah, I did. I have very vague memories. I was 3, so it's like pretty fuzzy. But basically, like, we played doctor once, and the school that we went to saw or found out, or I really don't remember, and I was reprimanded, and that was it.
And that's the only incident of that type of nature that happened as a child. Have you ever been essayed?
No,
Have you ever knowingly taken money or received donations from a minor?
no. I will say that, like, on this app, it is pretty difficult, right? Like, knowingly is the key word, right? Someone could easily sub and be younger, right? But I would have no way of knowing that.
This is true. I have seen a Discord screenshot where you admit to a situation around posting discriminatory remarks. Do you discriminate towards anyone based off their race? Basically, are you the R word?
Oh, um, I have no idea what screenshot you're talking about.
It was a Discord screenshot, and it looked like something you had posted in a Discord.
Can you read it, or
Do what?
can you read it? Because I really don't know what you're referring to.
It was just basically a confession about making some remarks. I don't really want to say the word of what it was, but you're not discriminatory.
Oh, I think I know what it was about. On the same Reddit account, like the one that I was talking about, there was another comment where, again, I was like being, like, oh my gosh, like the edge lord kind of, the Elon humor kind of, when I was, 18 and angry and sad. There was some like really racist thing online that I saw, and I was like, oh, isn't this, like, I posted some comment that was like, wow, it's so funny. Well, come on, guys, it's a joke. Which was like dumb and stupid, and even at the time, not reflective of how I felt. Um, but yeah, I'm assuming that's what it's referring to. But I've never, no,
I'm pretty sure that's the situation that I was
yeah,
specifically referring to.
yeah, yeah. I've never like knowingly, just discriminated against anyone as like beyond something stupid like that 15 years ago when I was on like comment boards.
You talked a little bit about getting clean earlier and that kind of leading into your realization of being trans. I believe I've also heard that you found out you were trans during COVID and after being cheated on in a prior relationship. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. No, that's not true.
Never been cheated on.
Do you think without COVID you would have ever found out you were trans?
I think I would have. I don't know if it would have been exactly how, at the same time, because it's hard to like anticipate that. But I actually started my sober journey late 2019, like at the very end of the year. And I think that was probably the thing that informed it the most. But maybe having time being in lockdown to like reflect sped up the process. And also me getting a job in San Francisco was informed by COVID to a certain extent. And being in San Francisco, which is a more inclusive place than where I was before, which was Georgia, probably had an effect too.
Okay. Do you think being trans is caused by your experiences and or environment, or do you feel you are just inherently trans?
The latter. Being transness is not a product of anything that you experience, it just is.
Did you ever feel out of place in your body prior to that realization of whenever that moment occurred? Did you ever have any experiences where you felt uncomfortable in your body?
I never felt comfortable ever before I transitioned, physically and emotionally. I didn't have the vocabulary to express that gender dysphoria that I was feeling. But looking back, yeah.
Okay. We're going to start getting into some more like specific things here. Do you have any regrets about any of your content?
I'm just thinking. Not really. I mean, there are certain things that if I could go back, I would do differently. But I don't think that necessarily means, oh, I wish I hadn't, like ideologically hadn't said something.
Many have said that you intentionally seek to be misgendered for views, content, and free meals. You've said yourself that you don't have passing privilege, so to speak, and you have a deeper toned voice like myself. How can you or we expect to not get misgendered?
I mean, that's the whole goal, right? That's one of the big things that I advocate for. Is not, no one is asked. I'm not asking anyone to read my mind. That's not on my slate of things to advocate for. I know that I don't pass. I know that I have a lower voice. I choose not to voice train. But when those videos of me getting misgendered go around, I know that I'm the one that puts them out. But it's difficult when I put those out to convey a greater context around it. That like, I stream 4 times a week, if not more sometimes. In the past, I've done as much as 5 or 6 or 7 times a week. And I go to restaurants and I eat the food, hang out and chat. And the vast majority of those times, I do not get misgendered, right? Sometimes I do. And when I do, I put those videos on the internet to draw attention to what happened, which is, hey, everyone should work on using more gender neutral language. That is one of the big asks of my content, and the things I'm trying to educate about is we all should be using more gender neutral language. So how can we expect not to get misgendered? The hope is that if we advocate enough, no one will have to worry about that, right? If we advocate enough, people like, and I don't know where you fall on this. I think that if I voice trained and maybe changed my body language a little bit and, did a couple other things, that I could be in the realm of passing, probably, maybe. But there are some trans people out there who will never pass, be it for financial reasons or because maybe they're too old to pass, because it takes a lot. Estrogen takes time. Like if you start transitioning at 60, you're probably not going to be able to get there. And those people shouldn't have to worry about getting misgendered, right? Like they shouldn't have to say, well, I guess I'm just going to get misgendered 24/7. What if they weren't? That's the whole.
Sometimes it appears, I don't. Do you ever feel like you could respond differently? Sometimes it appears if like a scene's being made, and if it means so much to you to not be misgender, like personally, how come you don't want to put more into like voice training and things like that?
Let me take the first half of that first, right? Like that I'm making a scene. I know you're not the only person who has suggested that I'm overreacting or that my reaction is uncalled for. The reason I react like that is because, and I know this sounds silly, it's because that's who I am. I am a confrontational person. I complain about things, not just about getting misgendered. I love complaining. But also, when I see an injustice, I will stand up to it all the time, every time. So when I get misgendered, that's just my natural reaction. Like, could I react differently? Sure. But I don't, because that's not who I am, right? As far as the second half of your question goes, why don't then if it means so much to me, if I get so upset about it, why do I not just voice train? The answer there is because this is who I am. This is like, I like my voice. I like my voice. And I don't feel like I should be expected to change who I am just so that I don't have to deal with like a certain type of inconvenience, right? In a perfect world, everyone would use gender neutral language and I could have a deeper voice and not have to worry about it, not have to worry about getting misgendered, right? And that's what I'm advocating for, is for both things to be true.
Okay. Why do you think it was okay for you to make the assumption and speculate that Kurt Cobain was trans when he is unable to respond to the allegation? Did you not think that that was disrespectful for you to assume, but yet be so adamant how other people should assume your gender?
I fully stand by that video. Kurt Cobain has been gone for 30 years. Kurt Cobain cannot hear us. No matter what we say about Kurt Cobain, Kurt Cobain's gone. Been gone.
But does that make it okay to speculate that they may or may not have been trans?
Yes. I would never speculate about an alive person being trans, because that can impact that person's life if they don't want to come out, if they're not ready to come out, or if they're not trans in the first place. It's the same reason that we look back on any historical figure. For example, Abraham Lincoln, who, when you look at the evidence, shared beds with men. I mean, there's a whole documentary you watch about it, but and I did a video about it. The details are escaping me, but we speculate that Abraham Lincoln might have been gay. Is the point? We will never for sure know if Abraham Lincoln was gay, just like we'll never know that Kurt Cobain was trans. But it doesn't hurt to speculate. Who's it hurting? Certainly not Abraham Lincoln. Certainly not Kurt Cobain.
Not out of respect for his family.
What do you mean out of respect?
To speculate about their family member potentially being trans or not. You
Okay.
don't think that's respect or disrespectful to the family?
Well, to suggest that an implication that a deceased family member of yours might have been a certain way, specifically.
But if it could affect their image of how people look at them per se,
Yeah, it
I mean,
could.
that could be damaging to somebody's image. And if
We,
it's your family, that
you say damaging. What about being trans is damaging?
it wouldn't even necessarily just like speculating about anything. So like personal, personal. Like even if it wasn't you speculating about them being trans, but like
What if I was speculating that Abraham Lincoln was a lefty and like use his left hand? Is that okay?
I don't know. I just feel like, and I don't want to say how I feel. Like okay, I'm trying to keep my how I feel out of it.
You can say I don't mind. We can.
I want to keep my feelings out of it. Okay, let's continue to move on. Do you truly think that your content does more good than harm, or have you ever thought that your content or any specific piece of content might have caused more harm than good?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Countless trans creators have spoken out against you and the way in which you choose to create your content. Is this not concerning to you?
Some of those trans creators like to misgender me. I think a big narrative that has been really front and center lately, and I think it's hard to talk about this without bringing this up, is that there is a conspiracy theory amongst trans creators specifically that I am not actually trans.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Well, I think it's important to get into in context of this question. So when I see a trans creator calling me Nick or calling me him, no, it stinks to see it, but like, how can I take that person seriously? You know?
Okay, but what about, I don't know, I just feel like there's like such a sheer volume of people. Like recently, as we've gotten closer into this, I've done a lot of like watching, and scrolling. Seems like there's such like a huge variety. It's not even just those ones that are like singling you out or only basing their platforms off of you. There's so many like offshoot trans creators, little creators. Like it seems like there's a fairly large amount of them that aren't specifically like a Lilly Tino T page or whatever.
I mean, what you're asking is,
does that concern you? Does that give you any second thoughts about maybe the way you're approaching the way you deliver some of your content, so to speak?
I mean, look, as a content creator, I'm sure you can understand that the thing that makes us successful as content creators, and really the thing that makes someone built to be a content creator in the first place, is having a point of view. I know who I am and what I believe. If someone wants to tell me I'm wrong, be them cis or trans, okay. There's certain things that I have done in my life that I've been wrong about. But advocating for trans people is not one of them. And I also think it's important to note that it is really cool and trendy to make content about how awful I am. People know it gets views, right? There's a flight attendant who I've never seen in my entire life who's making thousands of dollars saying that I was on their flight and that I got misgendered and that I made a big stink out of it. Didn't happen, right? It's important to note how people can be swayed by their algorithms. right? When it gets down to it, my content, like, I'm not the only person saying that Kurt Cobain was trans, right? I'm not the only person saying that trans women should be able to use bathrooms, but the way I say it is different. I know who I am. I know what I believe in. I'm always open to feedback, but I do this because I have something to say. And if people don't like it, okay. And I think that it's easy to see video after video after video of people trash talking me and ignore the fact that I actually do have a lot of support. It's not everyone that hates me. A lot of people like me. Otherwise, I wouldn't do this. Like, if every single person in my life told me that what I was doing was wrong, and I wasn't like, and I didn't get any nice messages saying that I really helped someone or to like keep going or, you know, you got this, girl, like I look up to you, I watch your streams every day. Like, it's not insignificant. It's not like I have a small little group of people and the whole world hates me. It's easy when you get stuck in that algorithm of negative videos about me to believe that it's everyone, but it's really not.
Okay, so how do you justify creating such descriptive content regarding gender reassignment inside of a children's themed park?
Disney World's for everyone.
But it's themed towards children.
No. There's things for children. There's plenty of things for adults too. I mean, plenty of rides, you need to be a certain height. Children can't ride a lot of rides at Disney World. They sell alcohol there. They have events that are just for adults.
So you don't see anything wrong with creating those pieces of content, regardless of, I guess, if you think it's geared towards children or not. You don't think there's anything wrong with that?
Well, I mean, Disney World is not just for kids. Like, I mean, you could say that I filmed a video, like, how about this? I
just
filmed,
want to know if you think anything's wrong with that. Yes, you don't think anything's wrong with that.
no, of course not. Why would anything be wrong with it? There are no kids in the video. Kids weren't listening to me. Why does it matter?
What does it accomplish doing it there, and why not make that sort of content in a more private setting or setting that a lot of people perceive to be a children's themed park? Why not do it somewhere else, basically? Why there, of all places?
Because I love Disney World. And there's a lot of fun, interesting visual things that I can use to make content with.
Have you ever visited any Disney park prior to transitioning and becoming a content creator?
Yeah. I grew up in Florida. Busch Gardens, Disney, Universal, Islands of Adventure. Love it. Love it all. How many times I rode the Men in Black ride when I was in middle school, over and over and over again. It was like it was like a part-time job riding that ride.
So, going deeper into that, recently the Florida Attorney General has said that they are investigating the issue regarding your content in and around women's restrooms on your recent trip to Disney World. Do you not think this type of attention is harmful towards our community?
It's a bit of a skewed way to ask that question, right? I guess if you take the Florida Attorney General out of it, maybe we should talk about those pictures to begin with, right? Those pictures I took because it's important to normalize trans women in women's bathrooms. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, but the argument is that I guess the place you decided to do this is really what all this revolves around. You're adamant that Disney World or Disneyland isn't a children's themed place, but most people, the majority of people that visit or the reason they go is for the younger age people. Of course, you have adults there and things like that, but the majority of who's attending these parks and what their trips are around going there is children.
False. I mean,
So you don't think that that video and the bathroom selfies and including other people created negative attention towards our community?
Mariah, there is negative attention towards our community whether or not I am making content on Disney. People are going to find anything they can to attack us with.
Yeah, but
we could literally
there's smarter ways to go about it rather than like doing all of this in like Disney World is the whole thing. Like,
why?
as a parent myself, I just can't wrap my head around how you could think that that location specifically would be the place of places to go make these videos about gender reassignment and take bunch of bathroom selfies with you. You have people in the back that didn't consent, and they've came out and said they felt uncomfortable. And then you've responded with like a video somewhat mocking this person.
First
like
off,
all of this you feel is okay to do?
I think you're
like, you don't see any wrong, Lilly?
Huh?
You don't see any wrong in any of this? Like,
why? Why would I? You tell me.
Okay, I'm not that's key. How do you feel about potentially being investigated and potentially charged with a crime in Florida? Like, how does Lilly feel about this being like a thing?
It is already a crime to be trans in Florida, more or less. And it is becoming that more and more every single day. Being trans puts a target on your head in Florida. Whether or not you are a content creator making a point in Disney, it is unsafe. Trans people...
So if you were making a point in Disney, you knew the significance that the location would have on the content you were creating. You know how it was going to be perceived going into it. This wasn't a surprise to you when you...
The point that I am trying to make, and a point that I think I make quite well, is that we are not going to be sitting around in our houses sad that we can't be ourselves in public. I am allowed to be trans at Disney. Okay? There is this weird misconception that I'm going around Disney World, handing out corn dogs to kids, saying, oh my gosh, have you heard about bottom surgery? Oh my God, if you drink this drink, just drink it, you'll turn trans, right? Like, I'm making content that is engaging, that is provocative on purpose.
At the same time, controversial. Yeah. Would you not agree?
How art works.
So controversy is going to create negative energy, especially in our political climate that we're in right now. We're being attacked from all angles. You feel that this is the right time and place to be bringing that sort of controversy, which in turn negative attention to the trans community?
Be like...
You think it's more beneficial than it is harmful?
So what's the alternative? What, like, let's say that
not making that content at Disneyland is the alternative. Doing it somewhere else besides Disneyland and Disney World. Like, people make content at Disneyland and Disney World, but they're eating the corn dogs. They're not talking about turning them inside out and using cake pops to describe bodily parts.
I think
like, do you ever feel that there's a line you shouldn't cross, or you're willing to cross any line to get that attention, the views, that to get your word out?
Two things. Number one, I recently posted a video about sports, and we don't need to talk about it other than for me to say, when I was filming that, specifically the shots on the track and field, there were children around. They were around. Children are everywhere. That's what I'm trying to say. They're at the park. They're everywhere except my apartment. right? I can't go walk down the street for 5 minutes without seeing someone who's a kid, right? We exist in public as trans human beings. Kids exist at Disney, kids exist outside of Disney. I like Disney because I love theme parks. Okay? I love food. I love silly, funny content. I grew up watching a show called Good Eats, where
So are you calling the content you made at Disneyland silly, fun content?
yeah, I'm cutting a corn dog. That's silly.
But
And a
the
marshmallow.
manner in which you're doing it and the descriptions you're using it as,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't think that's okay.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people don't think being trans.
Huge amounts of people, like, and it makes them feel negative towards other people that are trans,
Okay.
regardless if they agree with it or not.
Do you truly believe that without my content, people would feel no negative feelings towards trans people?
I feel like there would be less.
You think that I am responsible for a lot of negative feeling towards trans people?
I think you have a significant reach. Your most viewed videos is 40 million, nearly 40 million views.
Not nearly, not even close to 40 million. Like,
It's 39 million I checked today.
what? Where am I getting 40 million views? I'm not getting paid for 40 million views. Maybe 4.
Okay. Go to keep going into that. What's the most amount of money you've ever earned off a single video? Are you willing to say that?
Okay. Was probably the video that Elon Musk commented on a couple of years ago. And I will say that the average I make on any given video is a couple $100.
Even with millions of views, 10 million views, you get a couple $100.
I mean, if you're in the creator program, you know that the RPM, the rate per mil, TikTok ain't generous with that. It depends on a lot of things. A lot of things.
I do know you have to have qualified views and things like that. I don't really make money on views, so. But I've seen as much as $1,000 per million views RPM.
Wait, what? Say that one more time.
$1,000 per a million views for RPM.
Not even close. It's like RPM.
You know that every creator's RPM is different based off a bunch of different things.
No.
So you talked about your following and having a lot of people that support you, and you're not wrong. You have over 400,000 followers, right?
Yes.
Okay, currently there is a petition with over 500,000 signatures, more than that follow you, that think you should be banned, regardless of if you could actually be banned from a petition like this. How does it feel knowing that large amount of people think that what you're doing is not appropriate and shouldn't be allowed on TikTok?
There are more than 500,000 people in the world that believe that trans people shouldn't exist. So I'm not too bothered.
Okay. So you do not do and make this content and this what you know is controversial. You said yourself going into Disneyland, you knew the reaction you were going to get. If you're not doing this for views and money, why take your content so far and be so controversial about it?
The point is not to be controversial. The point is to engage, to educate. If you sit down and aim a camera at your face and say, bottom surgery is the process by which a surgeon takes a blah, 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 and does a blah, 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 and flips the blah, 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 no one's going to care. No one cares. But if you take an otherwise boring topic, whatever it is, and this is why I was talking about the shows that inspired me as a kid. Good Eats is one of them. Bill Nye the Science Guy, Iron Chef, Mythbusters. These shows all take scientific concepts, maybe not Iron Chef, but they take relatively uninteresting textbook concepts and they bring them into their content with props, with lights, with music, with all these different things to make it fun and exciting. And that's how they teach you, right? No one cares about a textbook that's boring.
Yeah, but it's a more fragile environment that we live in, especially in this political environment that we have, and all these things that trans people are dealing with. To purposely go into Disneyland and talk about such descriptive and inappropriate things at some points.
What's inappropriate about it?
It's just not an appropriate thing to do at Disney World.
Why?
I don't understand how you think that is okay. And going into more of this, some would argue that your content is being aimed and directed at children. Between the impersonation of children's characters and the content in the Disney parks, you've even gone as far as creating other content, as you would like to put it, while portraying children's characters. How do you justify this, and how could you think that this type of behavior is acceptable?
Like Velma?
Several children's, or not several, I know of two. That one and
Lola Bunny?
Miss Rachel.
Oh, I know.
Two different. I'm not saying you did both in the other content, but you've used children's characters.
I've never brought Miss Rachel into other content ever, nor would I.
You have a video where you're like dressed up like Miss Rachel. Am I wrong?
There's no there. Velma has been a character for like 60 years and is a staple in cosplay, both other content and otherwise. And I think it's ridiculous to suggest that Velma is, cosplaying Velma is crossing a line. It's
So you don't understand why people are upset about that. You don't understand why that makes people upset.
Say that one more time.
You don't understand why those situations would make people upset.
Oh, I understand. I'm not stupid. I mean, I'm not. I get it, but also like the alternative. Like, yes, I could say, you know what, my content is too provocative. Let me just dial it down a little bit. My content immediately becomes boring. And the message you send out.
You think you only have something if you're controversial? I don't think that's true. I think we have the power to do a lot without like drawing the lines and like taking things as far as we can possibly take them.
That's just who I am. And there is no reality in which we as a trans people can advocate for ourselves and make progress without upsetting people. People do not want us to exist. It doesn't matter what.
Yeah, you're right. There's people that just don't want us to exist, but drawing such negative attention, it creates negative energy, and it just builds and builds and spreads like a wildfire.
Why is it negative?
Because it's so controversial.
Why is it controversial? I know I'm like...
Let's go to Disneyland and make it controversial, and you did that as a conscious thought. You just said you knew that going there, the reaction you were going to get. You consciously went there knowing that it was going to cause controversy and create negativity and build on the wildfire of hate that is already directed at the trans community. You did all this willingly and knowingly. You're smart, Lily. I know you're smart. I know you're smart, Lily.
I know I'm smart, too. Let's talk about that last thing you said, right? Adding to the wildfire of hate against the trans community, okay? Without me, take me out of the equation, the wildfire is raging. Look at the legislation. You know, it's out there. It's bad days, tough days. The alternative to making content that is not provocative, right? Pushing people's understanding, pushing people's, poking and prodding at people's internalized transphobia, right? I know that when people I knew when I was taking those pictures in the bathroom, that when people saw them, even people who say they are allies, internalized transphobia will be triggered, right? Seeing a clocky trans woman in a bathroom, it's going to trigger some people. That's the point, is to challenge people's...
Literally trying to trigger people, though. That's a negative energy. You're triggering them in a negative way.
I mean, if thought-provoking art is crossing a line, then we just have a disagreement on what art is. If you are upset that a piece of art...
Art is not going to Disneyland and cutting up a corn dog. That is not art. That's diabolical.
What are you talking about? Why not?
Have you ever communicated with a minor in an inappropriate way?
No.
There's an allegation of a stream and a mom coming in and changing the subject.
The vegetable thing? I made a video about that. That person was 25 years old. There are people in the stream right now in my stream. I guess you can't see them. They were there.
So that was just a misunderstanding. And I know there's misunderstandings, and I know people skew things. We saw that prior to this when somebody made a video that looked like you were saying something about me. But when I step back and I look at everything from a holistic view and take opinions from all across the board, I see so much more negative responses to the content you create than I see positivity or people being uplifted. I just, as I stand back and look at this, from not looking at either of you, whether I like you or I don't like you, the overall consensus that I see is the majority of people are not happy with any of this. They think it's completely unacceptable.
Okay. I mean, once again, we get back to the idea that our algorithms tell us what we want to hear. There are plenty of people.
That's not true, though, because I've done all sorts of research. I'm not just stuck on the everybody against Lilly algorithm. I've looked in all corners. I've talked to all different sorts of people. I've seen all different sorts of things.
Then you know
the overall consensus is
not
more negative than it is positive.
Versus my TikTok comments. I refuse to be someone I'm not. I am a clocky, confrontational, provocative person. That's who I am. I am not the kind of person who is going to make content that is goody two-shoes trans girl. Oh my God, I have every box ticked for you. I'm exactly what you want to see so that we can, please, please, please give us our rights. Please, we'll be exactly who you want us to be. No.
So how far are you willing to go with this? Is there no line you wouldn't cross?
Of course
if you're willing to go to Disneyland and make the content you make and take bathroom selfies with people that aren't willing participants in the background, posting that for millions of people to see, is there no line you wouldn't cross? Like, when does it stop? Like, what length do you stop going to get your word out or get your message out?
I probably need to be misgendered in space. That's probably the farthest I would go.
Okay, last thing. Would you like the opportunity to publicly apologize or take accountability for any of your actions or to anyone you've negatively impacted?
I'm gonna pass on this.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you for sitting down with me.
Thank you very much.
I tried to keep my thoughts and opinions on matters out of it as much as I could, but I got a little
my friend
too far in there. I have no disrespect for you as a human. I respect all humans. I don't agree with a lot of the things you have done. I appreciate that you're willing to sit here and let me ask these questions. And yeah, I don't know if you have any last things you want to say.
That's it. I think we've covered it.
All right.